Today, I am talking to the incredible Suzanne Frear, or as her friends like to call her, Suze. In this episode, we explore our thoughts on what showing up in our business looks like for us and our top tips for doing it with confidence. So, let me tell you a little bit more about Suze. Suze is an expert in creative copywriting and messaging that connects. She has a unique gift of taking her client's brain dump and crafting it into bright, shining copy that grabs the attention of the reader and holds it. She's on a mission to rid the world of bland, boring jargon, in its place bringing bold, brilliant copy that really hits the beaver on the nose. Suze works with clients across the globe, from VIP entrepreneurs to change-making non-profits, always bringing her insightful talents and professional approach to every brief. Having lived in Germany and America, Suze is now settled in Warwickshire in the UK. She's a magazine columnist, regular podcast guest, experienced group trainer, and is currently working on her own fiction novel. In her spare time, she's an avid reader, walker, swimmer and joker, recognised far and wide for her loud belly laugh and snort. When I say I love this episode, I am not exaggerating. It was like a warm hug full of motivation and love. I really hope you enjoy it as much as we did, and whether you have followed me for a while or you are brand new here, I am so grateful for you. Before we dive in, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to tune in to Show Up and Be Heard. The podcast exists to help women like you simplify your business and your life so that you can stop feeling so overwhelmed. I'm your host, Becky McAvoy, owner and founder of Be Heard Socials, and I am an award-winning social media marketer and an international speaker who specialises in content strategy and organic growth on social media. If you want to cut through the noise and BS and get practical, actionable advice tailored specifically to make social media marketing accessible and easy to understand, or if you want to be part of a supportive community where women entrepreneurs can feel connected and inspired to achieve their dreams, then keep listening because you are in the right place. To be the first to find out when new episodes go live and to get more tips like the ones you hear in this podcast, make sure you join my email community through the link in the show notes. Right then, let's get started with this week's episode. Hi Suze, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm all right, thank you. Thank you for inviting me on. It's an honour.
You are very, very welcome. And I'm excited because you are going to be my first interview episode, which comes out on launch day. So the honour
That is so exciting. I am so thrilled for you. This is going to be such a great podcast for everyone out there to listen to help with getting started and keeping showing up and stuff. It's going to be brilliant. I'm really excited.
Oh, thank you. Right, shall we get stuck in?
Yeah.
I would like to ask you a question that I'm going to start all the podcast interviews with, just to find out a little bit more about you. So can you tell me what's your story in terms of how your business came about, how you became a business owner? Did you always want to be one? Did it happen by accident? What's your story?
All of the above.
All of them.
All of the above. So I've always loved writing. It's always been something I've thoroughly enjoyed doing. So even when I was really young, and back in the days before social media, before phones, I mean, I tell my kids I'm older than the internet, it breaks their minds. But back in the good old days, we used to write each other letters at school, long, long letters. And I used to write these multiple sides of lined A4, all decorated with the characters, and I'd make up stories in them. And so I always loved writing stories. And as my life progressed, I tried to do it a little bit. You know, you keep your hand in, but you end up just, still happy and things, but you end up into the corporate world because that's what everyone else is doing. It's the norm. It's the societal norm. You get your qualifications, you apply to work for somebody else. And so life goes on. I've been working in European finance for quite some years. And I enjoyed what I did. I first got the job when we lived over in Germany. And I really enjoyed it. And I was good at my job. But then when things started to change, it became more possible, more of an idea that maybe I could start my own business. Maybe this is the right time. So I'd been doing the copywriting a little bit on the side for quite a while, but just really low level, just to little extra pocket money, as they say. And I thought, well, I know that there's people out there that want blogs writing, that want newsletters writing, and this could be a way for me to still enjoy writing, still get that in, like find out about people and tell their stories, but do it in a money-making way for me. So little coming up to 2 years, about 18 months, 2 years. I took the plunge and left the job I'd been working in for more than 20 years and set up my own business. And that's why I'm here.
I absolutely love all of that because I've kind of known you. I know you were doing it a little bit before as a side hustle, like you said, but I've kind of known you from the sort of early days of you really taking the plunge into like, this is it, this is my job, this is what I'm doing, I'm
Yeah.
going all in. And so, like you said, like a couple of years ago, and you've come so far in that time. And that's one of the reasons that obviously the podcast is called Show Up and Be Heard. And it's one of the reasons I reached out to you and said, would you like to be like the first episode? Because I want to talk to you about like what showing up means to us, some tips for doing it confidently, because I think lots of people could look at you and possibly look at me and see the ways, different ways that we show up in our business and think that it's easy. And I'm not saying that it's really hard, but they can think that it's quite effortless. But I know from knowing you very well that that's not always the case. So that's kind of what we want to talk today about today, isn't it? About how we show up in our business, what that means to us, why it's important, all of those things, and hopefully give the people listening some kind of tips to do it themselves or get started with it. So yeah, and I think it's it is a real credit to you because you have, like, in the whole time I've known you, you've just thrown yourself in. You've sort of felt the fear and done it anyway. I think you felt the fear and done it anyway.
Well, you see, I'd done the hardest part. I'd quit my job.
Yes.
I had, but I know exactly what you mean. What you're saying, like, and I talk about this quite a lot. The fact that when we start our businesses as solopreneurs, we start our business because we enjoy what we do. And like me, I still love writing, and that's why I wanted to be a copywriter, because I love the writing. I love learning about people. I did not start my own business to show up regularly on social media, to attend networking events, to know my finances inside out, to manage how I advertise. That's not why I got into business, but I was lucky. I was where I met you through Teresa Heath Waring's membership. I was given a broad spectrum of knowledge about what I needed to do to get seen and get people talking about my business, building the trust, and then hopefully becoming my client. And that learning all of that was pivotal. So first of all, you've got all these elements you need to do, and we were still sort of towards the end of, well, not really the pandemic, but sort of still coming off it. So the online world is still very prevalent. The networking has moved massively online. It's starting to come back in person, but there's a lot of online networking, which felt easy to start off with. And I knew that at a touch of a button, I could leave the room and I'm gone. So, so that felt quite easy. That was a way to start. And that was my first sort of showing up. And to be honest, that was through the membership still. Like, there was networking events online, and also just showing up for the calls and being honest and open. But it was possible because you're in a very, very safe space. And so it's the combination of things, like finding those people that lift you up and listen to you and make you feel safe. And that's when you can be yourself. And that's where you can start to build confidence, so that then you can take yourself out of that and go somewhere else and try different events, in-person events, or different ways, or like applying to be on podcasts and different things where you have to speak to total strangers. And not so much just flick a switch and turn it on, but remind yourself that something you've always said: what's the worst that can happen? Fingers crossed, I won't die by being on this podcast. So like, if the worst isn't going to happen, if your mind goes blank, you can pull it back. A podcast can be recorded like this one, if need be. God knows what I said 5 minutes ago. But things, there's ways around things. Nothing is the worst case scenario. And so it's like you just said, it's feeling that fear and doing it anyway. Because I got to say, I've never been an overly confident person. I play a very good game. I have taught myself since being much younger to be confident, but I'm not actually confident, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I think that's probably true of most people, to be fair, because I don't think I know anybody that's just outright confident with everything they do. But It is, and I think that like that's kind of like a way that I'm embrace or have embraced life, especially since leaving my job, is like feel the fear and do it anyway. Because like you said,
Yeah.
what's the worst that's going to happen? I will say, if you die on this podcast, it will be quite the entrance for show up and be heard. But yeah, let's hope that's not going to happen. But
Fingers
it is.
crossed.
You're right. It is like what's the worst that can happen? And I remember you mentioned Teresa's membership,
Mhm.
and she was one of the first people to encourage me as a social media person to go live, and I was terrified of it. And she got me to write down like what's the worst that can happen? What's all the things that could go wrong? And I wrote them all down. Pretty much
Yeah.
every single one of them happened on the live. Like the tech failed, I got kicked out, like all this different stuff happened. But by the time I actually got on the live, I was laughing because it was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
like literally everything I said could have gone wrong has gone wrong. And so what?
Yeah.
Like I've done it.
Absolutely.
So I love that.
And how long ago was that now?
That was now about 3 years ago, which is
3 years.
wild that like goodness knows how many times I've gone live like since then. Absolutely love it. I've just launched a podcast, like all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff. So, but you don't get to
absolutely.
that point or where either of us might be in a few years' time without doing sort of those steps. I did just want to ask,
Absolutely.
because you spoke about
Yeah.
quite a lot of different things in that, and it just made me think. I wanted to ask you what showing up in your business means to you, and kind of what you've learned from it. And you kind of touched on that just now, but I was just thinking as we were
Mhm.
talking, you could look at showing up in your business as getting out there on social media and posting and doing stories, applying for podcasts. But actually, you spoke about like joining the memberships and communities, and the you mentioned
Right.
Teresa's, but I know you've been parts of lots of different things. And
Yeah.
actually, showing up in your business is all kinds of things, isn't it? Like part of it is actually you've got to put yourself out there to join a community or join a network, whatever it might be. So yeah, what like you have touched on it just now, so you might not have a massive amount to add, but what does it mean to you? And is it different to what you thought it would be? And what have you kind of learned from your experiences of doing it?
Well, I suppose, first of all, essentially, showing up in my business to me means showing up each day and putting in some kind of effort, even on those days when I might not feel like it. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we should totally ignore our own feelings, but first things first, show up, get your to-do list out or whatever it is you got coming up, and just get some progress made. That's the first thing for me. Then secondly, yes, social media is a really big one for me. And that was something, I've had social media accounts privately for a long time. I even did social media management training. So you'd think I'd be a little bit better at it than I was, but I still stumbled with it. The consistency, whatever that meant to me, coming up with ideas, it was a struggle, and I didn't want to be repetitive. I didn't want to copy other people. There was lots of things that were negative stood in my way. And a lot of this I do owe to yourself and the membership that you've set up, but the consistency is however I interpret it. So whether that's once a week, 3 times a week, once every single day, it's your choice, but just maintain it. And then also another big thing I learned was not every follower will see everything you post. So
Yeah.
worrying about being repetitive or maybe sounding a little bit like someone else, if you've got an idea, the chances that other people will notice that are slim to zero. So getting over those hurdles, this negative thing was, in social media particularly, was a big part of how I showed up. And then finding a way to be authentic to myself, and the big fantastic buzzword, just something that sat well with me. And that's, not trying to conform to how everyone else does it. So, you know, not trying to preach that I know everything rather than I've been where
Yeah.
you've been, I understand it. That sort of level. It's just finding my pitch and then and really, embracing it and just running with it. And that's been a big part is the social media. That's the biggest thing I can call for showing up.
Yeah, and there's so much in there that you said that I just love, because there was even the element of and again I was just thinking as you were talking, it's like sometimes showing up in your business is literally dragging yourself to your desk and doing a bit of work, because it is hard motivating as yourself as a business owner. So like it's
Mm.
such a broad spectrum of things, like actually the fact that we've even got a business means we've showed up for ourselves and our business.
Exactly.
But then, like you said, it's the tools like social media, or the different things that you mentioned earlier that you need to get into sort of consistent habits of kind of doing.
Absolutely.
Have you got any there's a couple of questions I was going to ask you, actually. I will start with, have you got any tips for people that are, like, especially with social media, is there anything in there that, like you said, that you were sort of worried about all of this different stuff? Have you got any tips of sort of like how you overcame that, or in hindsight, sort of, I don't know, what you go back and tell yourself or do, or any habits that
Um,
you've got?
well, with the social media, it's one thing I mentioned before. It's like being nervous about doing it, being worried about getting it wrong, and it's similar to when we talk about how you show up, how you network, how you interact, how you can suddenly do a podcast or a live. And it is just practice. It's all just practice. Just, do it the first time, then do it again, and then do it again, and then just keep on doing it. And before you know it, that habit will have formed, and it feels like a much smaller thing than it did do 2-3 months ago when you first started thinking, I've got to kick myself up the bum and get this
Yeah.
done. So practice is the main thing, is setting time aside to whatever you want to do. If you're not getting invited on podcasts and you're not getting invited on lives, do your own. Invite other people on yours. Do that practice, like, or do a story on your Instagram. And a way to practice being in front of camera and just talking. Just,
Yeah.
even if you've got nothing particular to say, just you can go on and say, okay, here I am at my desk. I've showed up. I've got some things to do. I'm working with so and so. They're brilliant. What are you doing today? Short, sweet, but practice. That's probably my tip.
100%. And I think some of what you said earlier about, like, finding those people or surrounding yourself with people that will lift you up on the days that you don't want to do it,
Yeah.
or kick your ass on the days that you don't want to do it, like whatever one you need in that moment. And whether that is through joining communities and memberships, or whether it's through networking, or whether it's just friends you've already got that own businesses. I think that's really huge, isn't it? Because sometimes you do just need a pep talk or some tough love to say,
either way. Absolutely. Because one thing you have to learn very quickly in business is that you rely almost 100% solely on yourself. Whilst people will cheerlead you on, which is so important, if you don't make money, it won't affect them. So at the very forefront, you've got to be able to rely on yourself. So remember how I was about to swear then. Remember how really, really brave you are that you started this business, that you quit what you were doing and you've started this business. Even if you've not quit yet, you're still brave in that you've followed what you really want to do and you are setting up your own business. That is huge. And the strength of character and confidence you've shown to yourself, the self-belief that you've already shown, remember that. Don't lose sight of that. Don't start doubting yourself at the smallest things. And then when you find the right community, like we said, people who really align with you, that understand your sense of humor, that can read you when you're a little bit down, or if you don't turn up to something, they notice you're not there. Those people are going to be so, so important to be your community, to be your colleagues, so to speak, even though you're not working together. They will create that work accountability, and it is so, so important. And finding the right ones is a huge thing. I've been really fortunate. I've found some fantastic groups. I've made amazing friends. From Teresa, obviously that's where I met you. There's a few other people in there that have left, have moved on to do different things. So I might not see them regularly in the membership anymore, but we're still in touch and we still do work together and we still check in and how are you? And there's still the accountability. Did you manage to get that thing done? And cheering each other on. And it's so huge and special that don't ever, push that networking aside. Find your people, because they will help a lot.
And like you said, those real connections can outlast, like you say, people move on, or you might move on from different communities or networks or whatever. But when making those connections is just so powerful, because once you've made the connection and it's genuine, you've got those people to lift you up.
Yeah.
I also think that I don't know if you find this, but I really find the dopamine hits sort of spur me on, because, you know, when you get accepted to be on a podcast, or when you have a post that's
Yes.
done like particularly well, or just when you've done something that you're really proud of,
Yeah.
it's like, oh yeah, this feels this good because it's a hard slog, and it feels rubbish when it's rubbish. But those dopamine hits are really powerful,
Yeah.
and can sort of spur you on. And
Absolutely.
I don't know if you have. So I have myself a little love folder, and that's what I look at when I'm feeling a little bit rubbish. So by a love folder,
Yeah.
I just mean like I've screenshotted lots of things, or messages
Yeah.
people have sent me or whatever, and saved them all into a little folder on my phone, and in my emails
Absolutely.
actually, and looking through some of that and going, oh yeah, no, that's why it's worth showing up.
Exactly.
Because these good things
Go
can come from
there.
it. Or,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Go there when you start doubting yourself. Don't let your mind spiral on that. I know
yeah,
something I often do. I'll send off a first draft of a piece of work, and okay, they can't read it in the first 5 minutes. That's fine. But hang on, it's been 10 minutes now. They obviously hate it. They obviously don't like it. And so then you spiral into, if it goes on for half an hour, I've lost my mind. So yeah, I need to stop and remember, one, they're very busy. That's why they outsource to me in the first place. Two, well, I don't know where they are or what they're doing. But three, go back to that love folder, and the amount of people who the first response is, oh my God, I love this. And
yeah,
just remember that you are good at what you do. And if they should come back with some edits or whatever, it doesn't mean they hated it. It means that it's just like, it's good, but I just like this adding, or maybe tweak that part, and that's brilliant because then I learn from that, and so it's
yeah,
not a negative; it's a growth. So
yeah.
yeah, the love folder is very, very important just to keep you sane.
Yes, absolutely. And just to like, it is just like, I think, especially as women, we're sort of conditioned to not really celebrate ourselves, or I don't
Oh,
know, be
absolutely.
overly confident, or whatever it might be. And just
Yeah,
looking back, it's just a really nice feeling going, oh, actually, like,
yeah,
all these people love me and have loved what I've done. And even if you get some feedback that they haven't loved what you've done, not that they hate it, but they haven't loved what you've done, it doesn't mean that you might as well throw your whole business in the bin because one person hasn't liked
no,
something that you've done.
really. Yeah,
Um,
no, I totally agree. And whether it's, as you say, like, because as women, we're not sort of taught almost how to celebrate things. You just get on with stuff and keep going. Even like as business people as a whole, not just as women. The small, because we've gone into business. These are the things. These are the targets we're supposed to hit. You're supposed to make money. You're
yeah,
supposed to grow clients. You're supposed to write good stuff.
yeah,
So we forget to celebrate.
yeah,
Goals are so important to us. I totally appreciate this. Writing down what it is you want to achieve, breaking it up into steps, all those little actions of how you're going to get there. But what we forget to do is celebrate all those little actions. And if you don't reach the goal, still celebrate how hard you tried
yeah,
to get there. And it's teaching yourself to do those celebrations. Now, I'm not talking about running around your garden like Ronaldo, but just say well done to yourself. Eat the chocolate bar or the apple, whatever is a treat to you. Like, just focus on that and
yeah,
just say, I know I worked damn hard to get to this point, and I've aced it, I've smashed it. So I deserve to celebrate it. And however
yeah,
that looks, whether you buy yourself a new t-shirt, a new pair of trainers, or if it's not monetary, there's other ways to celebrate. But for God's sake, don't lose sight of your achievements, big or small, because
yeah,
once you start telling yourself, oh no, well, that's what I'm meant to do, you're going to lose sight of why you're even doing it.
yeah.
It's so important to celebrate and enjoy what you are doing every step of the way.
Yeah, 100%, like every single word of that. And I was literally just thinking, do you know what? Next time I want to celebrate a little win, I might run around my garden like Ronaldo. Like, that's great. It's not Ronaldo. That's not the best example
Please.
for me. I'll run around my garden
That's
like Salah.
amazing content. Can we do that? That would be fantastic content.
Yeah, it would. It would. I'll run around my garden like Salah, because you've given a bad example of a
Oh,
footballer for me.
sorry.
Um,
Yeah,
it's fine. It's fine. Seriously, I was like, actually, that would be quite an adrenaline rush to go,
yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely,
Adding that to
absolutely.
the list of celebrations.
Do you know? It reminds me of that guy. I forget his name, but I know freelancing.
I was just thinking about that, Steve from being freelance.
That's it. Whenever someone gets freelancer of the week or something, is it? He does a proper celebration. I mean, I'm not in the membership, but I just love it when he puts it on social media. It brings me joy. I'm like, look how happy he is.
Seriously, funny enough, I was literally thinking about that because so it's non-employee of the week. So I'm in the Being Freelance
Non-employee.
community,
Okay.
which is run by Steve, and it's non-employee of the week. He's been doing that for years and years, like way before his community existed, I think. Um, but yeah, so somebody gets non-employee of the week and they get recognized for doing really nice things. It's really lovely, actually. They get sent like a mug
Yeah.
and some biscuits and a nice little thing. I've got my
Love it.
little poster here somewhere. But yeah,
Yeah.
but he does it, and I actually I won non-employee of the week earlier this year.
Yes.
And it's genuinely quite a proud moment. He said some really, really lovely things. But you're right.
Yeah.
He does it. He now does it sort of whilst he's out walking. But mine was in his garden because it was sort of in the winter.
Yeah.
And he announced it on the trampoline and jumped off the trampoline like, "Come on!" And I was like,
Exactly that. Yeah, you do that as well. It's like,
Yeah.
and you celebrate for that. But and that's what we should do. It's that feeling. It's that rush of adrenaline.
"Yeah,
We forget to feel it. We forget
yeah,
to enjoy the moment, whatever we've done. Like I
yeah,
got a really big client a couple of months ago, and I was really, really pleased. I was. And I remember, I think I told you guys and I told my husband, and the people around me were all like, oh my God, that's amazing. I was like, yeah. But let's wait and see. We don't know how to do it. We don't want to take, I don't know, are we too British? We don't know how to just believe in ourselves and take it. Yes, I am amazing. I got that bloody brilliant client and I worked hard and I proved myself. And look at me, but we don't.
yeah."
Something's going to go wrong. Something will just go
Well, I
wrong.
was going to say, I think it's that's definitely me, is like, oh, I don't want to say it yet, or I don't want to celebrate it before it's
Yes.
happened. What if? And actually, this reminds me of a conversation I was having with my husband earlier this year.
Yeah.
And actually, it's a very good example of it because we were talking about Liverpool winning the league, and he is very
Okay.
much like, he didn't want to get his hopes up because if we didn't win the league, he'd be devastated. He'd be really upset. And I was like,
Yeah.
what's the point of being a football fan if you're not going to enjoy it? Like, and at the time, we're not going to win it now, so it hasn't turned out the way we wanted it to. But you know what? If I hadn't gone through those few months of going, oh my God, we're going to win the league, getting really excited every game, I'd have just now I am a bit gutted. But I'm gutted because
You're right.
I enjoyed the ride and enjoyed the journey.
Enjoy the ride. Exactly that. If you lose sight of that, what is the point in watching? If you're like, oh, well, we'll probably lose.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we won. That was nice. You know what?
Yeah.
Worry, you're not getting the joy you should.
Yeah.
No.
But also,
absolutely.
this is. I was going to say this is getting all sort of like quite deep and philosophical. But like I said to him about the football example, I was like, so if we win the league, you'll be dead happy, right? And he was like, well, of course I will. I was like, for that very brief moment, like when the day that we win the league, rather than the entire season enjoying the fact that actually we've got a very good chance of it. And it's,
oh my God, it's such a good analogy.
Yeah, it's a really good analogy for business as well.
So this is what it is. So showing up for yourself in your business is backing yourself, is like believing in yourself and celebrating yourself. And because, yes, like I say, community is brilliant. People around you, learning what you need to do, showing up on all the different places. But if you haven't got your own back, why are you doing this? If you aren't supporting yourself, how can you show up for yourself?
Oh, Suze, there are so many quote-worthy moments.
Oh my God, I feel like we've just righted all the wrongs.
Yeah, I think we need to write some of this down. It's content everywhere.
I might be.
But it's so true. And actually, I'd not linked that analogy before, but it is true. Like, you've got to enjoy, the ride. And I think I was going to say earlier, for me, the biggest game changer in showing up for my business has been about my mindset and my confidence. And that is actually, like, I owe a debt of gratitude to Teresa for, like, her membership obviously has regular mindset lives in it. In the first sort of year and a half I was in it, I went to every one of those. I did the work afterwards. And it was game changing because actually, us sitting here and going, oh, you've just got to do it. And actually, this is how you do it. And this is whatever. You do have to believe in yourself, and you do have to get sort of your mindset and your confidence right. And I don't think you're ever fully there because we all have days where we want to throw it all in the bin, or we've had a little cry. But I messaged you last week, didn't I? And you said, just had a little cry. No reason.
Yeah, because also if there's no room for growth, where have you got to go? We're always still learning, and learning is such a powerful thing. And if anyone ever tells you, I know exactly everything you need to do, how to do, you sort your mindset, absolutely everything, all these things, tick them off and you will ace it. Don't trust that person, because no one has finished learning. Absolutely.
100%.
But yeah, mindset is huge. And yes, I totally agree. Those sessions in the Dream Business Club membership have been my life changing, like the money mindset, getting around the fact, I'll never succeed, or I don't deserve to succeed, and working out your values. Really good, just really good stuff. That as I listed a lot of stuff you get into business for, and I listed all the really, really practical things. I listed you're showing up your PR, your HR, your finance departments, but the other thing is yourself. And that's what the mindset does. Absolutely. Like you've got to show up there as well.
Yeah. It's a mindset that's accelerated my growth. And I think the career I came out of, I'd been in sort of middle to senior management for quite a while. I knew all the strategies and the doing side of it. But it was the mindset that needed work. And the thing I was going to say, sort of around, and you have to do that work yourself as well, because no one can give that to you.
No.
But I think when you surround yourself with people who also sort of want to do it, but a real shift for me was, and it was quite early-ish on in my business, and I can't even remember who it was that I was talking with, but we were basically talking about, I think it might have even been when I had some life coaching actually, but we were talking about me setting up my own social media profiles, and I didn't want to do it because I was busy and I had all these reasons that I didn't want to set up my own social media profiles as a social media marketer. And it was like, well, I've already got lots of clients. Well, I'm at capacity. I'm like all these different things, all the excuses that I sort of talk against now. But when I was working with this life coach, her name was Kim. She was absolutely amazing. And I remember sitting in the session when we really dug into it. And she was like, but why aren't you setting it up? I was like, I've already told you all the reasons I'm not setting it up. It's because I'm too busy. It's because of this. And just again, already told you. And it was like, oh no, so deeper. Anyway, long story short, it was because I was scared of failing. And I felt, which was ridiculous because I already had a business, but I felt like if I had a social media, very visible presence and it didn't work, people would see that it hadn't worked. And I was really scared of failing. And actually my first social media post ever was a quote saying, what if I fall? Oh, my darling, but what if you fly? And that's kind of it, isn't it? And I had a real shift in that, where kind of a reframe on failure, because I realized I wasn't actually scared of failing. I wasn't scared of the business not working out. I was scared of what other people would say if the business didn't work out, and people saying, oh, look, she left her job and it hasn't, it hasn't worked out. And she's done this. Who did she think she was anyway? First off, I don't think many people would have actually said that. And those or thought it or given me a second thought. I'm not that important to other people. But also, the people that did and may have done that, if that had happened, that's 100% about them. And I think they were my two real mindset shifts. Like, first off, I'm not scared of failing. I'm scared of what other people think of me failing. And they're two very different things. And second off, if anybody's like that, sad as a person, negative as a person, that they want to take joy in someone else's failure, that's not about you and that's about them. And so again, that was a real mindset thing. And that was actually the doing side of it. Obviously some bits of it is hard if you don't know what you're doing and you can get expert advice from people, but so much of it is mindset based.
And it isn't a one and done thing, is it? I'm sure when you had those sessions and you learned stuff and you came away and you might have had the light bulb moment, but I'm sure there were still times when you would go back and still waver and still worry. And again, it's like we said, it's practice. It's keep going back to what you've learned and those light bulb moments and keep having them. Keep reminding yourself that no, people aren't watching everything I do. Yes, I am the center of my own world. Naturally, I have to be. That's how I have to function. But I'm not that much of an obsession for anybody. They're not following me. And if they are, they're going to see the negative stuff and they all need to bugger off. It's what was it you said the other day? You can't please everybody. You don't even like everybody.
That's 100%. That is a post I put out on my own socials the other day of stop trying to be liked by everybody. You don't even like everybody. Exactly. And it is that is almost sort of like the mic drop moment, isn't it? Of there's lots of people I don't like, but it's not because they're terrible people. It's just they're not my kind of person. They're not my vibe or my energy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think
No,
it's quite a humbling
it,
moment, isn't it, when you go, I'm not actually that important in everybody
I'm
else's
not
world.
that important. I'm not that important, but I am to myself. And that's what you
Yes,
need to honor, isn't it? Give
yes,
yourself that respect. So
yeah,
believe in yourself and just, try and put the judgments and the opinions of others further
yeah,
down the scale than where your own are. You matter
yeah,
more than they do, than their thoughts do,
yeah,
and that's a huge thing. Learning to do that and consistently doing that is a massive thing to practice, and
yeah,
that again, that is part of showing up, being there for yourself, believing in
yeah.
yourself.
And like you said, it's ongoing. Like, I just don't think
Yeah.
you solve it. You just have to know, you just have to have this toolbox of things to go to. And I do, we've spoken about this quite a lot throughout, but definitely the people around you. Like, the amount of times I have messaged you and said, and vice versa, I just had a
Mhm.
little cry, like, I want to sack it all off, I
Yeah.
hate it all, I don't think I'm cut out for this. But it's how long you stay in that place before
Yes.
picking yourself up and moving on.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
what doing the work on my mindset has done for me, is I stay in that place for a shorter amount of time.
Yeah.
And if I didn't come into that place at all, you just wouldn't be human, would you? But
No.
there's a quote that I absolutely loved from, I think it was from Michael Hyatt, but about the you can't fail if you don't quit, and you can't succeed if you don't start. And it's like,
Yes.
yeah, actually, and there's all these things and quotes and whatever out there saying the most successful people have failed thousands and thousands of times, because
Hmm.
you have to
Yes.
succeed. Um,
Absolutely, absolutely. And you don't hear, well, you might hear about one or two of them. I think, Richard Branson, we've heard about his failures, but how many has he had on the way up to where he is now? We
yeah,
hear about them when he fails now because he's so
yeah,
big and so famous. I don't know whether
yeah.
that's the best example or not. It might be a little bit outdated. Showing my age, perhaps.
Isn't it? Like, yeah. I feel like this episode has turned into one big, like, motivational poster.
I do.
We are
I
throwing
do.
quotes
Believe
out
in
left, right,
yourself, sisters.
yeah, throwing quotes out left, right, and centre. We're just
I love it.
smashing it.
I
But all
absolutely
jokes
love it.
aside, I think that is the crux of it, isn't it? Like, there are practical tips of things you can do, which I guess actually, and maybe I'll ask you that now. And like I said, you have touched on some of these, but if there's just I'm going to end all of these sort of podcast interviews, because the podcast is called Show
Yeah.
Up and Be Heard, of asking,
Yeah.
do you have any sort of practical tips or things you do, or any last things that you'd say to anybody listening that wants to show up, or that is showing up and is just, I don't know, fed up and struggling and whatever? Have you got any sort of last things you'd say, or
Um,
tips you'd give?
so I have no new revelatory things. I'm just going to reiterate what we've touched on, what we've talked about already.
Yes.
And firstly, you've got to celebrate your own strength. Where you are right now is all down to you. Give yourself that pat on the back. Believe in yourself, because you are the most instrumental person of where you are right now in your life. And no one else, you couldn't have done this without yourself. There's a lot of people you can say thank you to, but you've done the hard work. So first of all, celebrate your own strength. Then celebrate your wins. Every time you do something, if it's something you've set your sights on, celebrate it. Enjoy the journey. It's not a destination, which I know is a quote on many cushions. It's about getting there. So enjoy the journey and celebrate all your little wins.
And
And
run around the garden
surround
like Mo
yourself.
Salah.
Run down
Is
your garden like Mo Salah, whoever you want. I mean, David Seaman, I'm really old. Surround yourself with an amazing community of cheerleaders, because there will still be those moments when you are feeling a little bit lost, or you might just have questions and you need advice. But if, like Becky and I have said, if there's ever a time you just need to text someone and say, nothing's really wrong, I've just had a little cry, I'm feeling a little bit better, how's your day? And then for them to reply and say, do you know what? Me too. It's one of
Yeah,
those days. And just knowing you're not in it alone, I think, would be my biggest tips.
I absolutely love that. Is there any advice that you would go back and give Suze of a couple of years ago, or a few years ago, just starting out in your business? What advice would you go back and give beginner
Um,
Suze in her business?
Beginner Suze. I would say this is going to work out. I think I had a lot of doubts and a lot of fear, and I didn't let myself dream big. So I started this journey in around the September, October of the year. And very quickly, people started talking about setting goals for the following year. And I remember just being like, I want to make money. I want more clients. I want bigger contracts. And my goals were really like obvious in a way. Of course I want to make money. Of course I want more clients. Of course I want the bigger. There was nothing specific about them. So, and it was a little bit like, because again, it's what I thought I was supposed to do. So there was no variation in how I would reach those goals. It was just like, well, of course that's going to be my goal. I would tell myself to relax a little bit and look at the smaller things on the way. Like we say, enjoy that journey. So just focus on the next step. Don't try and reach for the 100K year, straight off.
Year
Because
one.
I'm still not there, ladies and gents. Surprisingly enough, still not there. But yeah, don't do that. Just think about the small thing. What am I going to do this week? What am I going to do this month? And things will be okay. As long as you keep working hard, you keep believing in yourself, things will be okay.
I love that. It's going to be okay. It will all work out. I feel like that's a perfect way to end the podcast. Before we do go, how can people come and find you? Where can they find you? How can they find you?
They can find me. I do like Instagram. I like the pretty. So you can find me at Suzanne Frear _ or swing by my website, which again is suzannefrear.co.uk. And you can find a couple of resources on there. One of the things I always bang on about is connection with people. So defining who your ideal client is, I think, is really important. So there's a great freebie on there. And there's another one about how to write your own sales page as well. So go take a look at the website, and there's things on there, and drop me an email. Say hi. That would be nice.
Thank you so much for joining me, Suze. I've absolutely loved the conversation. And
it's been fabulous. Thank you so much.
No problem. Speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to Show Up and Be Heard. But please don't go without telling me your name. I genuinely love meeting new people and making new connections. So if you don't already, I'd love it if you'd come find me on Instagram, LinkedIn or Facebook and drop me a message to say hello and let me know what you thought of the episode. The link to all my socials are in the show notes. And of course, if you enjoyed this episode or found it useful, then I'd really appreciate it if you could take just a few minutes to give it a review on whatever platform you are listening on, because every one I get really does make me do a little squeal and a big happy dance. Finally, more than anything else, please always remember, realising that you're not actually meant to do this stuff alone is the first step to making it easier. So I'll see you next time.